freaking.
Gotta tell you something again. For me, this is great,
That's amazing.
but it's another quick fix. What we need to do is change the patent laws of Big Pharma.
Can he do that?
Yes, of course.
Mhm.
Because the same way they extended it by lobbyists, you can shorten it. All they need to do is shorten the lifespan of. You should have a patent. You should have a run rate. You should have some years where you have ahead of everything else. Pharmaceutical patents granted 20 years from the filing date.
Hold on. Did somebody say patent? For those of you who don't know, I am Dave, 10-year intellectual property attorney, dealing with everything from copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets, as well as patents. And I have some thoughts on this one, man. I love PBD. I love the podcast and Valuetainment and all that they are doing over there. However, I'm not sure if I agree with this. For those of you who don't know, which I think what he's going to get off into, you have actually 3 types of patents. And before I get off into some housekeeping items, please hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, as well as hit that subscribe button to be a part of the IP community. Also have an ebook that you got to go check out. That link is in the description. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I want to cook for a second. So you have 3 types of patents. You have a plant patent, believe it or not, and it's for like asexually reproducing plants. You don't see those too often, but those actually have a shelf life of 20 years from the filing date. You have a design patent, which actually protects the ornamental feature of a product. And that's actually a lot of times can be more effective than the 3rd type of patent and the most common type of patent, which is a utility patent. And again, the utility patent the design patent lasts for 15 years. The utility patent lasts for 20 years as well, similar to the plant patent. And again, underneath that utility patent, you can protect methods, you can protect processes, systems, apparatuses, as well as drugs, or in this case, it's like essentially a chemical formula. So what he's going to kind of explain here, or at least kind of what he was showing up on Google, is utility patents, which includes drug patents, last for 20 years. However, I'm not sure if I agree with him to shrink that period of the duration of that patent from 20 years to a lesser distance. And I'm going to tell you here as we kind of go throughout the video. But let me know if you agree with PBD or if you agree with maybe what I'm going to say here in a little bit on whether or not that drug patent should last 20 years. Let me know as I kind of bring it back up here and see what else they have to say about patents. Let's go.
They're providing exclusive rights to manufacture, use, and sell a drug for that period. This exclusivity incentivizes innovation, but can also lead to higher drug prices. Beyond the 20-year patent, regulatory exclusive like orphan drug exclusive can further extend market protection. So not only do they do a 20-year, and then there is now a way to extend it for another 18 years, another 20 years. So then guess what? They can sell a drug that costs them $2 or 45 cents or $3 or $1.20. They can sell it for $800. They can sell it for $190. They can do that. And in the moment the patent expires, have you seen what happens to the prices when the patent expires?
All the way down to cents.
It drops in ways that nobody even can.
And I will agree with him. Let me stop here really. Again, what he's talking about, it's called evergreening. And a lot of times pharmaceutical companies, drug companies kind of participate in that practice of, okay, say, for example, you're taking a drug and it's a pill. And then when it's about to expire, and a lot of patents really are incremental changes. However, in these drug companies, they'll tweak something, extend the life of the patent for another 20 years. And for example, if it was a pill, they'll say, okay, now we're going to make it a spray or we're going to make it injectable. And by way of kind of that minor change, they can extend that patent, not extend the patent. They get a new patent that builds off that old patent, therefore giving another run life of 20 years. But I will disagree with him because people can still make at the end of the 20 years, to the extent that it's a pill, people can still have a cheaper version of that pill. You just can't have that kind of minor tweak that was made to get that new patent. But again, as PBD and Vinny was talking about, that drug, the prices, once they go down, when a patent expires, those prices come way down. And a big reason is that is because a lot of competitors can come into the market, and therefore, since the patent is expired, you can essentially make that active ingredient, essentially make it a lot cheaper, and therefore kind of go from there. So let's continue to see what he has to take. I'm gonna give you my reason here in a second why I don't think the patents are, to reduce that patent term from 20 years to say, a lower amount is the right ideal. And I'm gonna give you 2 reasons, one of which kind of stems from that evergreening, but a second part of it is another reason which I'll get off into here in a little bit. Let's see what else they have to say about this.
Understand. So for me, it would be great for Bobby to work closely with the president to get working on the patent laws that Big Pharma has. If you reduce it to 10 years, to 8 years, to 7 years, you know what that'll do? It'll dramatically drop the prices of health insurance. So what are we paying right now for health insurance? Tom, if we reduce, let's just kind of spitball here. What happens if we reduce patent law from what it is 20 years to 7 years? How much do you think it'll reduce costs? Brandon, Tom, what do you think?
I think it would immediately reduce monthly health insurance premiums for Americans by like 15%, and over time, probably a third. Wow. And I say that because you know what the drugs do, and I've gone through things with my daughters who needed particular drugs when they were very, very, very young because of some anomalies, and thank God they're both really helpful. But also, here's something else that happens: if you every 10 years expire the patent, what happens is I got to run faster cadence. So maybe that's more medical research and more projects running faster that helps good drugs get invented that help a lot of other things, number one. And also, it's not just that the price will go down for the average consumer on their health insurance, it will also go down for the federal government on Medicare. Because what is Medicare Part D? It's a special insurance you get. D stands for drugs. It's for if you have a condition, you have a thyroid condition or something, you have to take a special medication that's more expensive. It's not covered fully under Medicare. And they even lobby to make it so that they can't prescribe you the generics. So they're in the knickers of Medicare like that. And so now you would also make it so that maybe elderly people on Medicare, the U.S. tax dollars would go farther so they could get the thyroid drugs and things that they need, and they wouldn't be reaching into their pocket for Medicare Part D.
I love that, Tom. What a great breakdown. Thank you for doing that. Brandon, what would you add to that?
Yeah, so you know one of the most unfortunate things about this is that it incentivizes bad behavior. So I worked at a big pharma company. I did global security there for a couple of years, and what their most resources went into? Lobbying DC and trying to extend their patent. So they had this one drug that made them a multi-billion-dollar company, and every last bit of effort and energy went towards just tweaking that drug a little bit so they could extend the patent. Everybody was freaked out. That was their number one concern, is extending the patent so that they couldn't change their $100,000 drug per treatment to
per treatment.
Yeah. So this is a rare disease drug that was $100,000 per treatment, would have been, pennies in the dollar if it lost the patent.
The problem.
But they, so they're not putting their energy towards the right things.
And by the way, you know who knows this?
Look, and I'm going to kind of stop it here really quickly and kind of refute some of what the panel said on PBD. Number one, they talked about reducing the time from 20 years, the reducing the length of or the duration of the patent term for the drug from 20 years to 7, 8 years. I would disagree with that, and I'm going to show you why I would disagree with that. If you do a quick Google search, thank God for Google these days, and say, okay, what is the average time that the drug companies have to make their money back? And again, I am going to be honest with you. I am not a big proponent of drug companies in these higher drugs. However, I am a proponent of kind of keeping a patent term 20 years and not dropping it. And there's other things that we can do to kind of fix this problem that they discussed with regard to kind of these high prices that doesn't include reducing a patent term. So let's kind of go first here. Let me kind of put it back up. So they talked about dropping the drug prices down, the term down to 7 to 8 years. Well, apparently, according to Google, it takes pharmaceutical companies 10 to 15 years on average to recoup their investment in developing and bringing a new drug to market. So again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense or it doesn't incentivize the drug companies to come up with new cures, new drugs, and things of that sort if they're not going to be able to make their money back before the patent expires. So if you're saying that the patent is going to be 7 to 8 years as opposed to 20, and it takes 10, 12 years to get their money back, then it is not going to be worth that time for that drug company. So that's one of the first things I want to say in terms of not reducing it. The second thing, and again, I think the Brandon, that gentleman talked about the lobbying efforts, and I do think that's a big problem. These lobbyists that are kind of in congressmen and women, pockets as it relates to passing laws that benefits the drug companies. I do think that's a big problem. But again, I think one thing, and Tom talked about, faster cadence. Now, the two things, again, we talked about evergreening. And evergreening is essentially making a small tweak that extends the life of the patent, or essentially you get a new patent that lasts another 20 years. And I think either the courts can do it, because the courts did it before back in the day when, you used to be able to get business patents, business method patents and processes. You get those left and right. However, the court as well as Congress, they kind of develop laws to be able to kind of stop that. Now, as a result of that, you see business patents go down significantly. You rarely see a company get a business patent based on some type of mathematical formula, whatever the case may be. And Congress, as well as the courts, can do the same thing with drugs. That being, if you have just a small tweak that's insignificant, but you can extend the patent for another 20 years as a result of that, Congress, as well as the courts, can say, no, we're not going to allow that. You have to have more than a small tweak to be able to extend the patent. For example, if you have a pill and you're changing it to a spray, then we're not going to buy that justifies a new patent. You have to have more than just kind of changing the form of ingestion to extend that or to get another patent on that. So that's up to, again, Congress as well as the courts have that power to do that. And that's one of the things that can be done without extending the life of the patent or without reducing the life of the patent from 20 years to say 7 to 8 years. Another thing is FDA approval. And Tom brought it up as far as a faster cadence. Look, man, it costs a lot of money. Again, part of that 10 to 12 years or 10 to 15 years to bring a drug to market, in part is because the FDA, they make you jump through all these hoops, and jumping through all them hoops with the federal government costs a lot of money. So if the FDA, kind of much like what Trump is trying to do to the energy regulatory things, as far as kind of reduce the burden, Congress or FDA can do the same thing as it relates to the hurdles that drug companies have to do, pharmaceutical companies have to get over to bring their drug to market, in hopes that reduces the price of the drug for the customer. So, for example, if you're spending $2 billion, I think they say the average cost of developing a new drug is $2.6 billion. And a big part of that is these FDA hurdles that the drug company or the pharmaceutical company has to get over. Now, if you can bring that down to say $1.1 billion, 1.5, in hopes that the end user pays less for that drug, that can be another way to kind of change some things up without reducing the term of the patent from 20 years to say 7, 8 years. So the two things I have is, number one, for those evergreening, where you're trying to extend a life or essentially get a new patent by some insignificant change, I think the threshold for that change can be brought up, which the courts as well as Congress can do. Then the second thing, as it relates to kind of these, the FDA and kind of the cadence, which anytime you have to jump through more hurdles with the FDA is going to cost more money. And again, if it's 10 to 12 years now, if it only going to require you 5 to 6 years as opposed to 10 to 12 years to bring to market, you can hopefully spend less money as the drug company or the pharmaceutical company in kind of going through that FDA approval, which hopefully at the end of the day, you can charge the company less money. So those are my two ways. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know if you disagree with me. I agree with their Sam. I think lobbyists, especially with regard to the pharmaceutical companies, is a bad thing. As well as I think that some other things that can be done to help out this process. I don't think reducing the term of the patent from 20 years to 7 to 8 years will be beneficial in that, because that could not incentivize companies to kind of create drugs or whatever the case may be. My two ways, like I said, is for evergreening or extending the life of the patent, making it more difficult for these drug companies to do that. I do think that's a big thing that they can do. And then FDA is lowering those regulatories, kind of the hurdles that these drug companies have to go through or jump through to kind of bring their drug to market. Those are my two ways. Let me know if you agree with me in the comment section. Let me know if you disagree with me in the comment section. Again, outside of that, I definitely agree with they're talking about with regard to Congress and lobbying and kind of all this kind of backdoor dealing that's going on. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know, like I said, your thoughts in the comment section. Please hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, as well as hit that subscribe button to be a part of the IP community. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.